Good evening. Don't get this redeemer there.
I'll really
Peter Curtis.
Everyone's enjoying it.
proper right.
Love's coming out. Bears going on.
Yeah, mate, people watch that.
Put it down
Anyway.
that.
Good evening. Mike Robinson's enjoying himself. That's enjoying it. Welcome along to this week's market update. This week we're concentrating on Wokingham. So, quick introduction. I am Mike Robson, just for confusion, from Avocado Property. That is Mike Robinson of Avocado Property, and as it usefully says in his banner, of Krothorn, Sandhurst and Finch, Hampstead. I've got Matt, hopefully everyone is in the same position on every screen, who is below me, who covers Wokingham Central, and Neil, down there somewhere, who is Winnersh, Lower Early, Arborfield and Shinfield, so your RG2s and your RG6s. So we are fully covered for Wokingham District tonight. If you're listening, watching and enjoying, please pop a comment in the comments box. Any questions you've got about the market or what's going on, please feel free. Drop us a like. Let us know you're watching. Let us know you're listening. And we'll do our best to answer on the spot. If you're watching later on, still do it. We will come back to you as soon as we possibly can. So, gents, the agenda this evening is all on Wokingham. We're going to kick off talking about Wokingham regeneration. One or two things have happened in Wokingham over the last month for the positive. First thing being, in my old stomping ground of Embrook, I don't know what to call it, the new Old Forest Road extension, Matt?
Yeah,
Is that
probably the best way of explaining it.
For the locals?
Yeah.
Is open. So it's we're down to the final part of the northern Distributor Road, and we're away. How's that going to affect north of Wokingham and Wokingham town centre?
I actually think the regeneration work and all of the transport networks that they built in around Wokingham over the past year or so, maybe a little bit longer, have actually been really good, because it's just removed a whole load of that congestion going through town. There's been a load of development that's happened that side of town as well, which just keeps everybody away from having to sort of get straight into the town. So that road that takes you from Winnersh, the Bulldog garage, the M&S garage, and takes you all the way back through to Toutley Road, basically, that's decent. That gives you loads of networking around that way. But all of it actually works really, really well, I think. That's only opened up recently, so I took myself out a little bit of a drive around town the other day, and I was like, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to drive down there. And I was like, oh, driven down it now. I know where it is. I know where it goes. Yeah. But no, I think it's a really good planned out strategy by Wokingham Council to give it the space that it needed.
And is it making a noticeable difference to the town already?
Yeah, I mean, Wokingham always can get a little bit sort of. It's a bit challenging when you get through the school times, and you go through sort of rush hour traffic. But generally, Wokingham as itself is better, I think. I try not to get myself out into town at that sort of time in the evening, otherwise you just find yourself with a bit of traffic, so I'm probably not the right person to ask. But it does seem better when I'm travelling my way through there.
And Neil, obviously that connects the north of Wokingham and the A329 into your area through Winnersh, where the Winnersh Road has been completed for a few months now. So how's that moving things in your Sandstone Close, the Hatchwood Mill? How's that affecting people's lives, and is it making properties more attractive to people? Is it making things more difficult?
Yeah, I'd definitely say it's an attractive selling point. We've just launched one in Sandstone Close, and we definitely put it in the bullet points that you're circa 5 minutes now from Wokingham with that new road, relief road opening up. So it's definitely a massive selling feature, and given that you can go across the other side past Hatchwood Mill, you can get down to Reading nice and easy as well now. So rather than being sort of set in a position where you had to do a 20-minute loop to get anywhere, you can now quite easily access either side. But yeah, Hatchwood Mill's been great, and that's obviously coming up to the term where people start to move after 3 and 5 years. So we're seeing a real real buzz around that area now, which is great. And again, everyone that I meet with on viewings or valuations down there, they love the position of it for exactly that reason. You're close to Reading, you're close to Wokingham, and you're in your own little hub. So it's nice.
Yeah, hopefully it takes a bit of pressure off the Winnersh Crossroads long term, because that was always a real bottleneck, that side of the town. And if it
Reading
takes
Road
the
in
traffic
general.
away from there and away from Wokingham town centre, it can only be a good thing. So, speaking of the town centre, new leisure centre opens on the 29th of June, I believe.
Not too far away now.
It's been a long
Obviously
time
in
coming.
place of the old carnival pool, new library. What are the facilities looking like, Matt?
They look decent, actually. It seems to have just like popped up out of nowhere. The last time I was driving down there a couple of months ago, you still had all the hoarding outside and digger trucks and everything else. And suddenly, more recently, you've seen this big pop up of a leisure centre, and I think it's going to transform the ability that people have got in that sort of network there, because you've got the newer gym that opened up by the Giggling Squid. I'm going to forget the name of it at the moment, but you've got the gym just around the corner from there. This is a bigger facility altogether, and probably going to be much better for families, and especially Wokingham getting busier with newer developments. They're going to need opportunities to take the kids out and take them to a swimming pool that actually they can all use, rather than having to be a member of.
Yeah, it's one of those facilities that's an absolute must for a decent sized town. What else is on the horizon in Wokingham? What else is happening?
We've also got the super. Was it the big bowling alley there as well? So that whole little hub there, I was just gonna say, it's like a completely awesome little complex, isn't it? You've got laser quests and all sorts in there. So if you want to kind of go anywhere in Wokingham, that's kind of like a nice little micro hub now, isn't it? Along with obviously Elms Field as well, which is completely transformed from what it was, 3 or 4 years ago. It was just a field, wasn't it? Now there's actually a decent play park there. You actually see more people walking around it. It feels like it's sort of come back together again. I mean, the whole of Wokingham was all just a bit run down, wasn't it? 10 o'clock back, 6 or 7 years ago. Then obviously Bracknell got the uplift, and then it was kind of like, this needs doing. So I was glad it's kind of rolled through, but I think it's way better now. And I think
it's amazing now, with everything that they've done over in Peach Place with all of the bars and bits and pieces. So the nightlife's better. It's much more enjoyable. I know I go out there every so often. You go to Sit and Sit, you go to Leafy Elephant, you go and have a few drinks. But then even during the day, when you've got your coffee shops and bits and pieces, they are there, and they're there for everybody to enjoy.
I've still not been to the Everyman cinema.
I'm trying to work out what Matt Davis was saying with his comment.
Are we? Is this golf chat? Are we looking at golf chat?
This is golf chat. That's his golf chat. I was like, yeah, thanks, Matt.
I was trying to figure out if it was something I could put on screen or not put on screen.
No, I was actually reading it going, that's absolutely nothing property related. What does it And then it made sense. Yeah, no, cheers.
No problem. I'm sure, Matt, I'm sure there'll be a few people watching or listening who are impressed by Matthew's ability for scoring a 2 on 6. I'm sure people know.
That's a good thing. I won't talk you through it, but yeah, cheers, Matt, for bringing it up.
As long as it wasn't a 6 on 2. As long as it wasn't a 6 on 2, I think you're all right.
Well, yeah, the 6 on 2 is not terrible, but a 2 on 6 is much better.
Good news. Yeah. Good news. Glad to clear it up. That's all good. So, I mean, there was a lot of negativity around Peach Place when it was being planned. Nobody wanted to see a loss of the amount of green space that was on the Elms Field, because the Elms Field was quite well used for public events. However, I think we're all, well, other than Neil, we're all dads of young kids, and I think we found that it's been a real positive to the town. In my opinion, it's somewhere there's a lot of outward facing coffee shops, the cinema, the new soft play, and obviously, as you said, the great big play park. So every time I've been down there, it's been absolutely full of families, which, whilst there's a bit of a loss of the green space has probably got better.
They've made it more usable as well. You even go a little bit further out and you go to Cantley, where they've built that new play park. I mean, I take I go and watch Ollie play tennis down there a couple of times a week, and that play park is always rammed with families. So,
Yeah.
and they spent a significant amount of money there. I know Mike's done a bit of work over there with some of the videos and trying to show that off, because it is a great facility with tennis courts, the football pitches, cafes, bar down there. I mean, it's got everything. And I think Woking, I think they've actually really thought it out well. And there's always going to be objections to things to change, but I do think that actually looking back on what they've done now, it has improved it, not just for the family element, but for everybody. And I think the green spaces are out there. I think the facilities are out there for everybody to use it the best way it can. And that's what, in truth, why people are flocking to Wokingham to come and move here. I think it was recently rated one of the safest places to live in the UK, which in itself gives everybody reassurance that they're coming in to enjoy an environment that is safe for families, especially if they're not used to living in Wokingham or they're coming from overseas. And I think it just gives everybody a lot of reassurance that Wokingham's actually the right place to move to.
So you've linked that perfectly, Matt. It's almost as if you do this for a living. Talking about buyers and buyer demand and why people and who's looking to move to the town at the moment. It's always been a strong place for commuters, being in the M25 belt. I feel like less people are commuting at the moment. A lot of people who work in London are only doing it one day a week. So what is the trend? What is the demand like in Wokingham town centre, and then the outstretched areas like your Krothorn, Sandhurst, Finches, Winnersh, Arborfield, Chinfield? What is the demand like from buyers? Is it local market? Is it out of areas? Are people coming in? Where are we standing at the moment? If you're looking to sell your house, who's likely to turn up?
I think there's a massive mixture of everybody. And I know that doesn't give you a specific answer, but there are people that are coming from overseas. You've got a lot of buyers coming from overseas at the moment because they're you've got the Hong Kong market, as I call it, where they're coming over. They specifically looked at the areas around by where Wokingham are, realised that it's a really solid market town for them to come and enjoy and live with their families. You get a lot of people looking to commute. There's people that Mike and Neil will be able to explain this better from their perspectives, but people that live in Krothorn or live in Arborfield, live in Chinfield, tend to quite like the environment, but tend to either want to upsize or downsize. They get used to the community that they live in. So there's still a lot of local movers as well, the people that want to stay in Wokingham and then but upsize or downsize, but enjoy the town for what it's got.
And Neil, we've talked about Wokingham changing. I don't think anywhere has changed as much as Arborfield or Chinfield in the last 10 years or so. Absolutely unrecognisable, for better or for worse. There's your start for 10. What's changing and what's likely to be onwards from there?
Yeah, it definitely has. And similar to what Matt said about Wokingham, there's always that uproar with new builds and the size of the developments that are going on. And there's still more housing being proposed and going on now towards Graiseley and the likes of. So there's always going to be that desirability to live here because, as you said, Mike, you're on that corridor to motorway links. So it's perfect position, it's prime position. I think one thing that Chinfield's missing is that sort of little hub. Did I miss something?
Yeah, I'm going to share that.
The classic.
It happens every week.
It's someone who...
There's Mike Robinson has got a specialist.
It's my Dyson laptop. It does that from sometimes. Terrible. It's terrible.
Fair enough. Sanjay loves
it. It does a good job, so I can't complain. It's doing two jobs at once. So
what I was saying before Sanjay's comment, I think I live in Chinfield. I live in a new estate within Chinfield, and I have moved within Chinfield in the last sort of 6 years. So I've always been around here. Last few properties, but I've always said I would move to Wokingham as my next move. I've said that for the last few years just because I like the community. I like the feel that it's got, and don't get me wrong, Chinfield's got a great community, especially now with School Green and the new cafe that's opened up. The Chinfield Running Club is just getting bigger and bigger, and that's a community in itself. And there is a real nice feel to it. I bumped into a lady that we sold a house to around the corner in Chinfield Meadows, and I was just chatting to her as I was walking the dog, and she said, I'm starting to really like the community feel to Chinfield Meadows. So it takes time, But Shinfield Meadows itself is huge, and they're still building phase 3s and will be for the next couple of years. So that's crazy. But Ian's comment about schools within Shinfield Meadows, they've built Alder Grove. So they're trying to accommodate the families that are inevitably going to flock here. And the demand is definitely there for the 3 and the 4 bed family homes. Similar to what Matt was saying, you've got Hong Kong nationals that are wanting to be in nice areas, wanting to be in nice schools. I think further up from Shinfield, obviously us covering Lower Early and parts of Early, that demand to be in the Maiden Early catchment is just bonkers. We've got an open house this Saturday that probably had about 100 inquiries on it. And it's just because it's Maiden Early catchment. It's ridiculous.
Amazing.
So it's always going to be a demand around schools. But yeah, I definitely think that having that community feel, having that hub feel is important. And I think credit to Wokingham itself over the last couple of years, and walking through the centre and walking past the cinema, you do get a feel for it when you see people just out strolling with their dogs and stuff like that. So it's a nice spot. I just can't afford it yet.
The time will come.
Absolutely.
And Mike,
Yeah.
Krothorn, Sandhurst, Finch, Hampstead traditionally were, I guess, fiercely independent areas of the town. Very much had their own personality and their own high streets. What's moving there? What's changing there with development and good community?
Yeah, I mean, they've always been, as you said, mini kind of marketplaces, if you like. You know, Krothorn's always had its mini sort of marketplace where it's, you know, people moving in from Bracknell or maybe from Finch. Again, schools, massive attraction there. Edgebarrow is the big one that everyone wants to be in, and it's really black and white whether or not you're in or out of the catchment area. So it's always been a case of, you know, people want to be almost walking distance to the high street, so they definitely in the catchment. But in terms of like development side of things, I mean, a big one is obviously Butlers Park. I mean, that, you know, in Krothorn is the biggest by country miles site or, you know, homes being built. It's almost like another wing or community in itself that's being built there now. You know, it's going to take obviously a fair few years for it all to develop, and obviously they're moving through, I think, another 3 or 4 phases. But as it's going on, obviously there's more infrastructure going in there and more things to do. I mean, you've obviously got the woodlands, but obviously the school's going to be built at some point, which is needed because unfortunately that sits just outside of quite a few of the school catchments. But there's going to be, you know, a pub and a restaurant, all this kind of stuff. So there's loads of stuff going on in there, and you can already feel that it's starting to take shape. So I think there's going to be a whole kind of new movement of people, as traditionally they always have, coming over from places like Wokingham and Bracknell and all the surroundings. Arborfield is obviously really well connected from there as well. So that's something that's kind of coming out of the ground, but it's, I think, being more well received as time goes on. Equally, as Neil said and as Matt said, everyone opposes to a bit of green space or something, or just change in general. You know, the TRL site, I mean, it wasn't a lovely green space, that's for sure. But you know, people just don't like change. That's just what happens. But I think as time goes on, it gets more sort of integrated and it becomes the norm.
I think there's a strange benefit and loss when housing developments go up. You tend to see a lot of green or a lot of trees knocked over in favour of houses going up. But the way housing developments are built now, it does actually open up space for people that was previously closed off. Butlers Park's a good example. All 4 of us have been in that main TRL building at one time or another for our sins. And you would have seen the view of the forest and known the amount of deer and wildlife and everything that was there, which will have been displaced for the housing estate. But what it's done for the people of Krothorn is obviously open up a brand new country park that you were absolutely not allowed in before that housing development was built. So there's a sort of a knock-on benefit for the local people that I'm sure a lot of the people who would have opposed the development now spend their weekends in Butlers Park. And it's the same where I live in Warfield. There's a big Berkeley House development which was built on greenfield sites, but now there's 60, 70 acres of country park, which is unbelievably highly used every day of the week, where people just wouldn't have been able to go previously because it was closed off fields. So there's the pros and cons of all those things. So let's look at mini market updates, because as you mentioned, Mike, where you are, it's very much a mini market compared to, you can't just take Wokingham district as a whole, because Wokingham district takes you to almost into Henley, and they're all the way down to the bottom of Krothorn, I believe. And
Krothorn split in between two,
across to Upperfield and across to Bracknell. So Wokingham cannot be taken in one broad swoop. Mike, starting with you, what's your market update for your areas?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, the similar tune that has all been a bit bonkers. I think, there's been, Krothorn has always been as a mini hub, somewhere that's just flown anyway, regardless of whether or not prices are going up or down or side to side, just because, again, going back to schools, the village location, people just really like it. So that's always been really buoyant. Sandhurst, I guess, is a much bigger, area, if we like. So there's kind of more sort of sides to it, in terms of, like, for example, where you are in Wokingham, Matt, you've got Embrook and Woos Hill. It's kind of a little bit more divided up like that in Sandhurst. So there's a bit more choice. So naturally, prices probably haven't gone as bonkers as the Krothorn market. But Finch has been popular. I mean, there's a lot of big houses in Finch, which usually you just see pop up and think, oh, wonder how long that's going to be on the market for, and then before you know it, they're sold, and that just says everything about the marketplace at the moment. That kind of higher end, I'd say, between Finch and Krothorn, anything 750 plus is just going so quickly, even regardless of the fact that rates are going up and everything else. There still seems to be a lot of money around those sort of 4 or 5 bed premium, bigger detached family homes, non-estate sort of locations, really. So that end of the market's really shifting, certainly in all of those.
Is there anywhere where it's not?
Ooh, what ends of the market or particular patches?
Anywhere where things are actually slower?
I'd say probably across the board, out of all of those areas, I'd say the apartment sort of lower end of the market has just been a little bit slower, and it's been a bit more, I'd say, price sensitive. Where there's a lot of choice, and obviously we discussed new builds. There's a lot of properties, flats particularly, that have been built probably in the last 4 or 5 years. So still, nice, healthy leases on them. But where there's a lot of them, and the market seems to have shifted in terms of what people want, they tend to have just slowed down that little bit more. So again, you're seeing that they aren't really moving that much, and in some cases, people are taking a bit less than what they paid for it a few years ago, or they're trying to get back and just break even if they've had it for a rental or have saved enough money for a deposit to move onwards. So I think that I'd say probably anything 325 downwards, or maybe even 350 downwards, is been the sort of the harder market in the last few months for sure. But not been so much of an issue in Krothorn and Finch, probably more so the sort of Sandhurst direction.
Neil, Mike's just mentioned reselling of new builds and new build apartments. You're sat in a new build, you work in an area where the majority of properties are less than 5 years old. How's your market?
Yeah, I'd say we had the same struggle around here, really, with flats for a little while, where there was just so many choices for people. That's now sort of diluted out, and to be fair, flats are selling pretty well. We've sold quite a few. We've got quite a good foot strength in Arborfield and the new estates over there, because again, loads of new builds in Arborfield, and we have no trouble selling those flats over there either. So I think that was really a struggle now, because I get asked that question all the time: what type of property is struggling to sell? And at the minute, in where we are, nothing. I think the real core at the minute, what the high demand properties are, which is probably the same for most of us, is the 3 and the 4 bedroom properties. And it's just crazy. As soon as we list a 3 or a 4 bed, it just goes bonkers, absolutely bonkers. As I said, the one in Lower Early, over 100 inquiries. Winnesh at the moment, obviously being the closest to, there's quite a lot going on in there. Got some nice stats for you as well. I came prepared, but there's 14 3 beds in Winnesh right now on the market. That just shows that normally there'd be a lot more. They're getting snapped up pretty quick. And 26 4 beds for sale in Winnesh. And then we had 142 inquiries on a 3 and a 4 bed in Winnesh in 5 days. So we launched two properties in Winnesh. One was a 3 bed, one was a 4 bed. And in total, I think there's a few more than that, but 142 inquiries through our system in 5 days, which is just mental. So as always, it's the supply and demand factor, isn't it? There's so many people out there, and unfortunately, we have to do it every day. We have to let down quite a lot of people that have been unsuccessful with their offer or securing a place for a viewing. In terms of the hubs, what we're talking about, the hub side of things, interesting enough, because Krothorn and the likes of, they do have that their own little high street and their own little vibe going on. Lower Early's always been its own little bubble. And again, like you mentioned at the start, Mike, people tend to move within that bubble. Arborfield and Shinfield are probably the same. A lot of new builds in both of those. And then Winnesh is, in my opinion, just grabbing through slowly to be part of Wokingham a bit more, especially with those connections now. And that's what we're noticing with people. As I said, one of those is in Sandstone Close, and that's gone absolutely bonkers because everyone wants to live there and be on the doorstep of Wokingham town. So yeah, it's fun and games at the moment, but yeah, supply and demand.
Well, yeah, it rams home the point, doesn't there? If there's only 40 odd properties on the market, and you've had 140 inquiries on 2 of them in a couple of days, then it just goes to show that if you're going to be buying a property in that location, you need to be in the best position. So, Matt, last but definitely not least, Wokingham, where's the market all the way through from your flats to your 5-bedroom houses? What's happening? What do people need? What do people want? What's going right and what's going wrong?
It's a very similar message from what Neil was saying, actually. The whole of the market seems to be moving relatively quickly and comfortably. So your flats in your new developments in like Montague Park, specifically, there was a little bit of a spate maybe about a year or so ago where they weren't quite getting the money that they were paid for a few years before. Whereas now we're certainly starting to see a little bit of an upward trend on values. The difficulty now being that most of the ones that sort of were sticking have now sold, and we're in a bit of a climate where estate agents are tending to overvalue a little bit to win business because there isn't an awful lot that's out there. So I'm suddenly seeing that where a 2-bedroom flat, opposed to it being really bespoke in that development, because there are some really cool ones in there, they're starting to sort of hear over 300s, and that your sort of 290 to 300 is your sensible price cap on it. You're suddenly seeing bits and pieces come up sort of 315, 320. Be interested to see if they sell over a period of time, but the flat market's moving well. Your sort of 2-3-bedroom house market is good. Again, going up against some competitors in town. I won't name names, but specifically, you know very quickly and comfortably if they're going to be telling them a lot of money. They like your service, but they've heard a high price, so they sort of want to give it a go for a period of time. But properties like, oh goodness me, I'm listing one in the next couple of days just around the corner from Embrook Cricket Ground, 4-bed detached with a couple of reception rooms, utility, garage and driveway parking, ensuite to the bedroom at 600,000. I'm sort of expecting a similar situation to what Neil had with Sandstone Close, where the inquiries are going to be through the roof and phenomenal. So that will sell. There's no question on it. And then there's a couple of other bits and pieces that are sort of just coming on and going. So in truth, to answer it, the market's good throughout. It's about being very cautious on your asking price, though. And this is sort of the really good way in which we operate, is that you almost have a little bit of a test and measure process on your asking price when we do our social media advertising. So we'll run our process on the sort of the portals, the coming soon, on the carousel, on your Instagram and Facebook, listing the video out there, boosting your video via your Facebook algorithms to get it out to a wider audience. And then once you've sort of looked at the audience and who's sort of bitten at it there, you know whether listing it at, let's say, 600 is the right money. And then you put it on at 600 if you feel that's right, across Rightmove and Zoopla, so you get not just social media, but the networks out there as well. And then you know that you're really giving the seller the right advice, rather than just go, oh, let's stick it on Rightmove and let's wait for it to connect you. And it's price, you've got to get right, totally got to get right. But I think, like everybody said so far, your houses where you've got your families that are looking to upsize from 2 and 3 bedrooms into the 4 bedrooms with a couple of reception rooms, that's the real hot market at the moment. So your sort of 600s to your 800s, if not a little bit more, in Wokingham specifically, is what's selling.
2 more questions, Matt. What advice would you give to the flat owner in William Heelas Way who's had 4 valuations? 3 of them have said 300. 1 said, I can get you 325. What is your advice to that client?
It's an easy one. Listen to the people that have told you 300. The difficulty you're going to have, and being brutally honest, is that most people buying a property in William Heelas Way, buying a flat, are going to be generating some level of mortgage. Not many people have the ability to pay cash. It's your first time buyer market, in truth. Sometimes you get an investor, but it's your first time buyer market. When you are listing a property at higher than what it's worth, and let's say, for example, you get it, you'll often find that you're downvalued at the point of mortgage, and you'll end up having to take a hit on your price anyway. If that doesn't happen and you sit on the market at 325 for 3 months, you ride out a sole agency period with an estate agent in town, and you go back out to another agent that told you 300, you're going to want closer to that 325 because that's what you still wanted at the outset. So you need to be accepting that 3 people giving you the right advice and 1 person giving you the wrong advice means that you go with 3 people that are giving you the right advice.
Yeah, I was going to jump in on that. I've had one recently where it was amazing because she loves what we do, and we sat down, as we always do, sit down and go through all the pricing, show you comparables. And she tested me. I didn't know this to start with, but she tested me because one of the properties that I used as a comparable was her friend's house. And she knew that house was much better than her house without disrespecting her house. And this house was a little bit higher than the price that I ended up suggesting for lady in question's house. And amazingly, another agent, a high street agent, has won the business of that house over me, £75,000 more than the house that was her friend's that she already agreed was not as good, but was better than hers. So it's amazing to see that the wool is literally just getting pulled over people's eyes sometimes, and
just hear the numbers.
They're just hearing the numbers, and she agreed. She said, "Yeah, I see where your price is coming from. That house is nicer. Mine needs to be here." And realistically, if she had listened to us weeks ago, because it's still on the market, she probably would have got in line with her friend's house because we could have pushed the demand or pushed the price because of the demand. So you price it, like I said to everyone, price it competitively, draw the attraction in, and then push the price up from that, because people will fall in love with it. But unfortunately, 100%. People are still doing what they've always done. And I go out to so many valuations where they say, "Oh, the other agent said we could start here, and if it doesn't work, we'll come down to here." Okay, so they're already not confident in the price that they're telling you. So they're already starting that vicious cycle of price here, chip away. It's already in this market. If you're on the market longer than 28 days, your property is not going to sell. That's like it's the way of the market now. We're selling them a lot quicker, but most properties at the moment are taking 28 days to sell. So if you're on the market for 90 days, one of the ones that I came up with earlier, and the lady went, "Ooh," because of what I'd said. But if you've been chipped away, your property's sat for too long, buyers aren't stupid. It's a tough market, and it's a seller's market, but buyers aren't stupid. If they see it's reduced and it's been on the market for 3 months, they're not interested. You're going to be reducing until you catch a market back up. So
Totally agree.
Agree
with
I think
there's an old adage that you can go down but you can't go up, is what people always used to say, is, well, we might as well start high because we can come down but we can't go up. and it's never been more wrong. In a
putting
market.
yourself in the reduced section. It's like, why would you want? No one wants the red sticker, and you just open the gateway for people to go. That's been reduced. They're up for a deal, and then you'll end up getting terrible buyers through the door, and they'll all want a deal, and then they'll get frustrated, and it's like you only got one shot getting it right on the market. Exactly what we all do. Price it to sell. Because once you've got people coming through the door and their elbows are out and they have seen it because it's nice and it represents good value, well, then they're happy to put their hand in their pocket because they're already through the door. But you can't create that atmosphere if you can't get them through the door because the price is too high.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. It's creating an atmosphere that people actually want to buy rather than forcing people to try and buy something that they don't really want. So talking about deals, guys, I want one property that's coming to the market that people don't know about, that they're going to want to know about if they've been listening loyally for 35 minutes. Give them some gold. Mike, give them some gold. What's happening in the next week that no one knows about yet?
Got a lovely 4-bed detached coming up in Krothorn in Coppice Gardens. It's going to go off. First time in 38 years. They just don't come on the market there. So that is going to be, that's going to be a real good listing. I think that will go bonkers. Equally, I'm also going to mention another one on Finch Road. But I'm cheating. I'm getting them all out there. It's
I've got two as well.
No, it's a buy one get one free. I'm afraid on that one. If you buy Coppice, you can have Finch Road. Not reduced though.
Go on, tell me. You've asked now. Come on. Which one? What was it? What's the second one?
It's a detached chalet style bungalow with planning permission on it. And that's what I can say at the moment. But it will be nice. It'll be very nice.
Neil, can you beat that?
Yeah. I got a 4/5 bedroom chalet bungalow, already circa 2,000 square foot, coming on the market in Grovelands Avenue. Very, very desirable spot. We're going to be doing some lovely drone footage on that tomorrow. But that one is in need of renovation and screaming for someone to go in there and turn that into an extra 200 grand with a bit of work.
Bread and butter.
Yeah, it's going to be a beauty.
Everyone loves
the
project.
And I want an extra minute as well because I'm working on 3. I've got 2 3-bed semis coming up in Shinfield Meadows, and they pop out.
Matt, what can you do?
I've already given you one earlier, so I feel like I need to give you a second one. But just
just make it up, mate.
Yeah, why not? So the 4-bed detached in Wayside, which is just by Embrook Cricket Ground, will be going live midway through next week, and that's a really, really, really good house. It's been looked after beautifully by the current owners, and it gives those aspiring upsizers the sort of accommodation that they really want and need. So watch out for that. Also, I'm going to be working with Mike on a lovely new instruction in Churchham's in Finch Hampstead, and selling a friend's parents' house for them. And that's a 4-bedroom detached with double garage. And if you know Manor Park Drive, you'll know that that's a lovely spot to live as well. So watch this space on that one.
Yeah, we know Neil wants to live in Wokingham. I also want to live in Manor Park Drive.
Oh, there you go.
I've also got the same problem as Neil. I'm a couple of £100,000 short this year. So if they want to hold on 2025,
no.
But
the benefit behind this one as well is that they're offering it with no chain at the top, so they're moving. So anybody that sold at 600 looking to upsize to just under 9, then this is the house for you.
That's a big shout. Gents, as ever, it's a pleasure.
Should we get Sanjay's joke in?
Thanks for joining me.
No.
The music. This is the wrong music to roll out to.
Late night love.
Should we finish on Sanjay's joke?
Yeah.
What does the British estate agent care most about? This is loving music.
Goes well. It's property. He gets this reaction every time.
He loves it.
Anyway, Thanks for joining us.
See you later on, everyone.
Next week.
Bye.
Take care,
Big
guys.
love.
See you later.